Questions every agent should ask before joining a team or brokerage. Compensation, culture, coaching, compliance, clients, and that's just the C words. We're going to dig deep into this topic today in 20 minutes of Tuesday training. Hey, everybody, Mike Ferrante here. Yes, with LPT Realty and the Mike team. That's the big news to start off the year. We did move. A lot of us moved over to LPT Realty, which is the fastest growing real estate brokerage ever. Zero to nearly 30,000 agents in about 3 years. So yeah, it was a big decision. It was at the end of the day, it was a hard decision, but it wasn't. And we're here to educate, and so I just wanted to mention it to everybody, let you know that we did make the move. Again, these Tuesday trainings are agnostic. We don't promote brands or really talk about recruiting or anything like that. So I want everyone to feel like this is a safe space, and regardless what brokerage you're with, I mean, we get people from all over the country, all over the world in some cases. We've had agents from Canada, Central America joining us for training, and we don't care what brand you're with. We did want to share some good news, though, and tell you that's what we did. And to that end, I thought this would be a great topic today. So, on two fronts, first of all, agents, questions they should ask, but also brokers and team leaders. This training will be valuable for you because, frankly, you should know the different models that are out there. You should know what your competition is doing. And the reality is that there's no one best plan. If that were the case, then everyone would be doing the exact same thing. So when I talk to team leaders, agents, they ask me, well, where should I go? What's best? And the answer is always, well, tell me more about your business. Let's figure out what's best for you. So it's no one size fits all. Everyone knows there's all these different plans out there. And a lot of people think compensation is the most important thing. Well, guess what? It's not. When agents talk about why they moved, it's almost never compensation. They may tell you that's what it is, but it's almost never compensation. It's usually something else. And oftentimes it's culture and all the things that go in under culture. So again, agents, stay tuned. We're going to talk about the questions. I've got a couple people on. If you guys want to chime in at some point, feel free to. And brokers and team leaders, you should be thinking about these things because it's all part of your value proposition. What are you providing to agents that sets you apart, that makes them want to come to you? And how do you compare to what your competition is doing? So, all right, I've got quite a list to get to here. By the way, Ohio agents and brokers, I'm going to be offering this as a 1 hour elective class, a continuing education elective class. That'll be coming up later this year. I don't have the exact date, but if you need some CEs and you want to do an elective on this topic, I'll dig much, much deeper. So since I mentioned competition and since, or rather compensation, and that's what everyone thinks is most important, I am going to talk about that first. We all know that there's all these different models out there. And again, there's no one size fits all. So I think the questions that people should be asking and the questions that team leaders and brokers should be prepared to answer is to talk about what their compensation model looks like. How are commissions calculated? Is it gross? Is it net? How are corporate fees taken out? Are there corporate fees? Is 100% company really 100%? That's one of my pet peeves when I hear people saying, "Oh, I went to 100% company." It's never 100%. There always has to be some fees collected by the brokerage or they wouldn't be in business. So does that mean there's monthly fees, per transaction fees? Every brokerage is slightly different, so it's really important to dig deep on the compensation, and if there's percentages, find out if there's anything else. Is there a change over time? As your production goes up, do those fees change? Is there something called a cap where you pay a certain amount and then you don't pay after that? And once you cap, as they say, are there additional fees? Every cap company I know of does have additional fees after you cap. There's something. You pay a per transaction fee or a compliance fee or something, whatever they call it. Are there annual fees? Are there monthly fees? It's really important to dig deep into the compensation. And after I just said that wasn't the most important thing, it's important, but oftentimes not the number one thing that causes agents to move. It's usually culture. So let's talk about culture for a second. There's a bunch of things that fall under culture. And again, this is the number one reason that agents make a move. Are you a cloud brokerage? Are you more of a traditional in-person brokerage? Do you have physical offices? Are there managers? Are there admin staff? Are there events? Do you have supervision? What does it look like when there's a problem? What kind of support do you have? What's the relationship like between the team leader and agents, or team leaders and brokers, or brokers and agents? That relationship, that feeling that agents have, that's the culture. And I got to tell you, every brokerage does have its own unique culture. Are you tight knit? Are you community based? And again, the whole cloud versus in person thing contributes to culture in a massive way. I often wonder, how's the culture going to work out in cloud based brokerages? Now, I know they have lots of online platforms. I see Facebook groups. The company we're with now is more of an online brokerage, and it's kind of interesting. The culture is more national, and that may not be a fit for everyone. But again, I want to reiterate, no one best plan. It's really important to dig deep and figure out what is best for you. And as a broker or team leader, what value propositions are you going to offer? Because you can't be everything to everybody. All right, so let's talk about clients. One of the questions that agents fail to ask is, what happens to clients when they join, when they leave? Do they get to keep those clients, or do they stay with the brokerage if they ever leave, even if it's amicable? If they ever were to leave, what happens to deals in process, clients in process? So there's something called, and Scott, you undoubtedly know this, there's something called an independent contractor agreement. We in real estate, we love our lingo, and they call it the ICA. They may call it something different in some places, but that's pretty universal. The ICA, Independent Contractor Agreement. And if you're like most people, you do like the Apple iPhone terms and conditions, and you just click that button that says agree. So anyone who's looking at a brokerage or team, it's really important to read every page of that. And brokers and team leads, if you haven't looked at your ICA in a while, I think it's really important to go through it and see if anything has changed. There's a bunch of questions as I go down this list that pertain directly to the ICA. And if you don't know what's in it, or you haven't looked at it in a while, you really should reacquaint yourself with that. And if you're an agent or team lead, ask your broker for a copy and definitely give it a review. So a lot of things are going to be spelled out in the ICA. Things like branding and marketing. Okay, whose branding comes first? Depending on your state, one thing may have to be more prominent than the other. Your broker name, your team name, your name. In Ohio, I can tell you that the broker name has to be at least as prominent or more than the team or agent. And who's reviewing this stuff for you? Do you have a team lead, or, is the broker just allowing you to put marketing out there? And if there's a problem with it and there's a complaint or some kind of violation, who's there to support you if there's that problem? What about websites, your other marketing? Talk about branding, understand what your requirements are with the team or brokerage that you're talking to. What about if you ever leave? That's something we just had to deal with. We had a lot of content that we took down. There's probably still some that needs to come down because our agreement said that any marketing with the old stuff had to come down. So we're still in process of getting that stuff down, changing it over, seeing what can be salvaged and what can't be. What about social media accounts? So the whole branding, marketing aspect of things is something that should really be examined closely. And as a team lead broker, what's your policy going to be on those things? I mentioned compliance and supervision. This is something that I think is going to be a challenge for cloud-based brokerages going forward. And by cloud-based, I'm talking about there's one office for a whole state, or there's three offices for a whole state, and there's hundreds or thousands of agents. Certainly an interesting, probably quite profitable model as opposed to the 20, 50, 100 agents out of one office. You've got all that overhead and fewer agents. But what about compliance and supervision? I can tell you here in Ohio, what I've heard coming from the state, from the Division of Real Estate, is that they're starting to crack down on the apparent lack of supervision by these cloud-based brokerages. So when they have an agent who's had a violation or a complaint, not only are they bringing the agent in to talk about things, they're also bringing in team leaders and brokers to say, hey, you're ultimately responsible. So be aware of that. If you're a team lead or a broker at one of these cloud-based brokerages, just know that at least in Ohio, and I'm sure it's in other states, they're starting to really crack down on that and also hold the upper levels to more accountability. Now, when there is a problem, when there's a complaint, when there's a lawsuit, I think that's a question that needs to be asked. Not that you anticipate these things, but like I always say when I do my core law and core ethics classes, it's not if, but when you're going to have one of these things come up, if you do enough business. Even if you do a deal a year, if you're in this business long enough, you're going to have potentially some kind of issue. So really understanding what kind of support you have. What kind of support are you giving if you're the broker? What does your deductible look like? That's a question that when I made this class, the CE class, questions every agent should ask before joining a brokerage or team, I never would have thought to ask, hey, what's your deductible on your errors and omissions insurance? And if you're trying to attract agents and you have to tell them, I don't know, it's 10,000, $10,000 deductible, or if it's 1,000 or 2,500, can you see how that might affect how agents look at joining a team or brokerage? I mean, obviously. Now, hopefully no one ever has to experience that, but like I said, you eventually will if you do enough business. All right, let's set aside compliance and supervision for just a second, and let's talk about what exiting looks like. Do you have to give notice? Does that notice have to be written? I think one of the mistakes that brokers sometimes make is someone says, yeah, I'm leaving, and then they just immediately shut the agent off, send them back to the state, turn off MLS access. I think that most states, most contracts probably say something about written notice. So that's something to be aware of. And also, if you're an agent looking to make a move. Also, when you talk about teams, like we have a team, I don't have a 20-page ICA. I have a one-page team agreement. I wonder, as I'm sitting here talking about that stuff, is that truly enough? So anyway, know your documents, know your team agreements. In the documents, here are some other questions to think about. Is there a non-solicitation or non-compete? And is it enforceable? Here in Ohio, non-competes have become less enforceable. Now, I'm not here to give you legal advice. I'm an associate broker, not an attorney, but I think understanding, asking the right questions, ask your attorney to review. How many of you have ever had an attorney review your ICA? My guess is that brokers like Scott probably had an attorney write his ICA, but when's the last time someone looked at it? And if you're going to be signing a contract that's going to affect your livelihood, could it be worth it to not just run it through ChatGPT, Mike Pillow, but also to have an attorney possibly look at it? And I'll be honest, when I signed my new one, I ran it through ChatGPT. So, do as I say, not as I do. But really important stuff. Who retains ownership of listings, pending deals, buyer's agreements? Is that spelled out in the ICA? Some brokers will say, no, those are my listings. And so that's one reason why a lot of agents don't move because they're kind of held captive by that pending business. So understanding that is so, so important. What about pending commissions? How are those paid out? Is there any adjustment to pending commissions if you leave, even if it's amicable? Okay, which in many cases it is just a change of scenery. Agents move, right? Sometimes they move and come back. But What happens to those pending deals and commissions if an agent makes a move? What about online materials, that intellectual property? Who owns that? What about websites, reviews, testimonials, marketing materials that you've put out there? And can you keep using that stuff if you simply just change the branding on it? What do you allow if you're a team leader broker? Finally, I'm going to talk about some big picture questions. Sort of thought of these as ones that people often skip, they don't think about. But if I'm an agent, I'm asking this question: what problems or support specifically is the team or brokerage actually giving me? What problems are they solving for me? That's a great way to ask that question. Because like I said in the beginning, there is no one size fits all. A lot of agents, what I hear a lot of agents saying is, I'm looking for a better split and leads. I got to tell you, that is not a sustainable model. That is not truly what agents need. Scott and I understand this, being brokers or team leaders. But the reality is that leads, that's a short-term fix. There was a really awesome team leader who recently, well, he's still in business, but he's kind of scaling back. And he said these words at a team event, like a team mastermind that I went to, and I'll never forget it. His name was also Mike. There must be some theme, brilliant people named Mike. But he said, leads are the vitamins. They're not meant to be the whole diet. So, Scott, yes, you can steal that line and use it when they ask you about leads. They're the vitamins, not the whole diet. So when agents ask these questions, I would dig a little deeper. And as an agent, if you think those are the two most important things, ask yourself truly, do you just want vitamins or do you want to learn to fish? You want me to hand you a fish or do you want to learn how to fish? Is training, coaching, mentoring, especially for new agents, isn't that more important? you know, Throw me some leads and I might convert 2% like the industry average or 1%. Why leads when you can learn how to do it, get better training, better mentoring, and then when you generate your own leads or when you do get company or team generated leads, you actually convert at a higher rate. So isn't it better to have the coaching, mentoring, training than to have the leads up front? But certainly ask that question. I would ask this question too. I would say, if I do everything right, what does success look like for me in the next 12 months, 24 months? What might make me not a good fit to join your team or brokerage? And of course, team leads and brokers, be prepared to answer these questions because I'm putting them out there and you might get asked these questions. And then, I think you always have to have an exit plan. So the best of partnerships, sometimes they dissolve. And that's the same thing with agents and brokerages and teams. No one did anything wrong, but sometimes people just leave. They want to change the scenery. They want to start their own thing. And it's funny because over the years, and Scott, you've probably seen this too, but over the years, I've had agents leave the team. And when they do, I'm not upset. I mean, I might be a little bummed. Oh man, I watched that agent grow. I watched them do their own thing and grow under my umbrella, all the mentoring and coaching and support that I gave them. And look how great they did. And now they're leaving. So it's very easy to be angry about that. I'll be honest, I've never been angry about it. Instead, I'm proud, almost like a parent, so seeing them go off on their own. There's a agent, and I don't know if he watches my videos, but Alex, Alex is now a solo agent, very successful, very prolific on social media, crushes it on video, and we worked together for 2.5 years. I'm very proud of him. So I feel like I had something to do with his success, but certainly he took it to a whole nother level. So I love that. But if everything is amicable, if I were to leave, what does that process look like? So team leads, brokers, it's important for you to answer that question. And agents, it's a great question for you to ask. So again, I did want to make the big announcement. I've got it up here. It doesn't change anything about what we're going to do here on Tuesdays. It doesn't change anything about the content that we're going to put out. Really, we love collaboration. And I think collaboration between brands, between cities and regions and states and even countries can be really valuable. There's a saying, it's kind of cliche, but a rising tide lifts all ships. So that's going to be our philosophy going forward. And I hope you guys will continue to join us. And of course, when you have input or you have thoughts on topics you'd like us to address, that you'll hit me up. Also, if you'd like to ever co-host a show with me, if you have a topic you'd like to discuss on a platform like this, of course, we go live, we record it, we put it on YouTube, the audio goes on the podcast, we're live on Facebook, and sometimes we'll chop these up and do little shorts for people as well. So hit me up. It's Mike at 21mike.com. You can go to 21mike.com, click the button at the top to schedule an appointment with me. And meantime, stay tuned. It's a fresh year. A whole new batch of videos are coming out. Thanks for being here.